Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the free legal advice show on British Muslim TV. My name is Riffat Hussain and I'm your host for the next hour. As our viewers know, this show is designed to help you with any legal queries that you have. It allows you the opportunity to present a question which I can then answer for you. You can put your question in two ways. The first is by calling me live in the studio and speaking to me directly. This allows me to ask you some further questions and understand your query a little bit more in depth, providing you with a tailor-made response directly for your particular circumstances. Alternatively, if you do not wish to speak to me live on air, you may wish to send your question through our WhatsApp group. Again, you will find the number at the bottom of the screen. I ask that if you do use this method, that you do explain your question as fully as you are able to. Please provide details of what the query is, what your question is, and a little bit about the background so that I can understand exactly what your question is and provide you the fullest answer as I am able to do so. This is a free legal advice show, and therefore any advice given is free of charge. You are advised, however, to seek some further clarification to your particular circumstances if you do require some further assistance, or to send further questions through to the show, which I can pick up. There may be instances where I'm unable to provide an answer, either because of the delicacy of your situation or because I need some further information before I am able to provide a specific answer to your question. In those circumstances, I may provide a generic answer around the particular topic and may call you back after the show to clarify some further points before I'm able to give you a response. Again, if there is a follow-up after the show, then that will be free of charge in line with the programme's policy. With regards to the types of questions that you may present, as long as the question relates to English and Welsh law, then that is the jurisdiction that I practice in and I should be able to answer your question. If it is a matter that's not within my expertise or within my knowledge, then I may signpost you to other organisations that are better equipped to answer your question. Again, in those circumstances, if you feel that there is something that you would like me to clarify, then I may go and look up your question and answer it in our future show. So do let me know if that is the case. I have already received a number of questions through our WhatsApp group. As our viewers are aware, it does get relatively busy and I'm not always able to get through all of your questions. I do apologise if your question is one that I'm not able to get through to. I do try and carry your questions over to the following week, but I do ask that you do repeat your question and inshallah we'll pick it up in a future show if I don't get through this evening. In order to avoid any disappointment, I suggest that you send your question through as early as possible to allow me to navigate through that before the end of the show. Moving on to the questions that I have already received, and as always, with thanks for you taking the time to send them through and engaging with my programme. So the first question I have is from a brother or sister who says, I want to apply for a BRP together with my sister. We have been in the UK for almost 8 years now. We were given 6 months visa when we came in the year 2013, and our visa then expired. We don't know what to do, and we don't have money for a solicitor or a lawyer to help process our case. Please, we need any kind of help that you can provide. So thank you so much for sending that question through. Now, unfortunately, your question does lack the detail I would need to provide a detailed response to your inquiry. I'll give you some helpful tips as to information that you might wish to send through that will help me give you an answer. So for our viewers that didn't understand the legalese within there, the brother or sister is seeking to apply for a biometric residence permit. So essentially some form of leave to remain in the UK, as the visa that they arrived on has expired. It expired in 2013, as it was only for the duration of 6 months. The brother or sister has not then made any further applications to remain in the UK and therefore are currently residing here as overstayers, clearly liable to arrest and detention in those circumstances. And so their priority is to regularise their status and to become a lawful citizen of this country. With regards to what applications you can make, or if there are any types of applications you can make, then, as I say, I would require some further information with regards to your circumstances. Which country did you arrive from? How old were you when you arrived? You mentioned that both you and your sister arrived. What were those circumstances? You mentioned a 6-month visa in 2013, which would suggest to me that this may have been a visit visa. Were you sponsored into the UK? What was the purpose of you coming here? And essentially, why did you not leave after the validity of your leave expired? Those are essential questions before I am able to give you an answer in respect of any options that may be available to you. So either please do call directly into the studio and speak to me live on air, or send through some further clarification questions and information before I'm able to address your question. In the meantime, I will move on to another question. The next questioner asks, my question is, my house is worth £590,000 according to market prices, but I would like to sell it to my daughter for £250,000. What legal implications can I face? Now, I'm not a conveyancer. However, the property is yours, and you are entitled to sell that property at the price that you wish. It may be £250,000, it may be £100,000. You may want to transfer title as a gift and take no money for it. As long as you follow, you hold good title, i.e. you are the lawful owner, which you suggest in your question that you are, then you are entitled to dispose of that property as you wish. I can't see why there would be any legal implications as long as the money is traceable, the money hasn't been acquired. Certainly the money by your daughter will be paying you hasn't been acquired by any kind of illegal means, and can be traced in terms of its source. Then there would be no legal implications. You determine the value of your asset. If you want to take a lower value because it's partially a gift and partially a price agreed between you and your daughter, then there would be no legal implications as far as I'm aware in that transaction taking place. So thank you for your question, and I hope that does answer that for you. Moving on to another question. I live in the UK and I am a British citizen with my siblings. My brother has a full-time job. He's also a British citizen. So could you help me and let me know what the process would be? And can I please request not to mention my name? And sorry, forgive me, the question is that they are wanting to apply for a visa for their mum to come to the United Kingdom. Now, the brother mentions that they are a British citizen. Of course, I will not mention any names. If you are wanting to send through a question and not mention your name, that's absolutely fine. We will preserve any anonymity with regard to the questioner. So the questioner doesn't make it clear in what capacity they wish to invite their mother to the United Kingdom. It may be that they are seeking to invite mum as a visitor for a period of up to 6 months. And there are rules, immigration rules, with regards to the requirements any visitor coming to the United Kingdom would need to satisfy. Generally with visit visas, again, as I say, up to 6 months in the United Kingdom, one would need to demonstrate that this is a genuine visit. And this is generally where most visit visa applications are, or the reason why most visit visa applications are rejected by the Home Office and refused. Proof of relationship will help, an explanation and evidence of the reason why somebody is coming for a visit. So, for example, they may be coming to attend a family wedding, in which case there will be evidence that this marriage is taking place. They may just be coming for a visit, in which case there won't be any documentary evidence. But it would be helpful for the sponsor to draft a short letter, and maybe even draft a short letter on behalf of the applicant, mum in this case, to explain what the purpose of the visit is, the duration of that visit, and put in any particular factors why the visit is taking place at this moment in time. So, for instance, it may be that mum and children haven't seen each other for several years. It may be that there may be a new arrival in the family. There may be particular circumstances that mean that mum wants to visit now, or just generally that mum wants to visit. There doesn't have to be a specific reason. People are entitled to visit family members. In terms of how you demonstrate that a visit is genuine, again, it depends on the particular circumstances of the applicant and the sponsor. Generally, we find that the refusal does not question the integrity or the ability of the sponsor to sponsor, or their intentions behind that sponsorship. Most often than not, the Home Office will look at the circumstances of the applicant. What are their ties to the country that they are coming from? Do they have other family members? Do they have assets, for example? Do they have employment or other engagements that they need to participate in that they would then need to return to? If there aren't those things and those ties are limited, then that leads generally the Home Office to saying or suggesting that this may not be a genuine visit. The applicant doesn't have an incentive to return to their country of origin, and they may be wanting to come to the United Kingdom to then facilitate another type of application, and may therefore not return within their 6 months. So that would be the visitor route. So try and provide as much evidence in terms of the purpose of the visit and the ties and reasons why an individual will go back. I will continue to answer the question after this short break. Please do continue to watch, and I'll be back with you shortly. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Free Legal Advice Show on British Muslim TV. I am your host, Riffat Hussain. Just before we went into our break, I was answering a question from a brother or sister with regards to inviting their mum to the United Kingdom. Our brother or sister informed us that they are a British citizen and they are living in the UK with other siblings. Their brother is in full-time employment and also a British citizen. They didn't clarify as to why they are seeking to invite their mother to the United Kingdom. Is it for a short-term visit or is it a more long-term arrangement that they are looking for? Just before we went to the break, I gave some information about visit visas to the United Kingdom, that these are for a short period of time, up to 6 months, and they generally the evidence that is required to succeed in those types of applications. If I could just touch upon briefly the kind of documents that you may need for such an application. With visit visas, the emphasis, as I said prior to the break, is on the circumstances of the applicant. What incentive do they have to return following this visit to the United Kingdom? Are they likely to return? Do their circumstances suggest that they will go back? Or is there a background picture which suggests that they may not, and in fact they may want to remain in the United Kingdom because all of their ties are in fact here, and this is a method of bypassing more stringent immigration rules for other types of applications and not returning. With regards to documents, again, it depends on the country that you're applying for. Most countries outside of the West don't tend to use banking facilities, so you're unlikely to have bank statements. Most countries don't have utility bills, or certainly female members of the household are unlikely to have any utility bills in their name. And so documentary evidence can be quite difficult to establish. The kind of documents you might want to consider are statements from other people, particularly people who may have official positions, who may not be as closely tied with the family, and therefore the Home Office can't say they have an incentive to lie on your behalf. So ministers of religion, for example, you may have somebody who's in employment. They may be taking time away to come to the United Kingdom for a short period of time, but they'll be taking leave from their place of employment. You may have an individual who has employees in their own business or in some capacity and need to return to tend to their business commitments. They may also have family. They may be leaving behind a spouse, for example, or they may be leaving behind other children. Even if those children don't live with them, that can be a relevant factor. They may have extended family. They may have their own siblings and even parents in certain circumstances. So try and portray the fullest picture of this individual's connections to their own country and the reason why they will go back. And you will find that will assist an application and is more likely to result in a positive outcome than to simply say they are coming along for a visit and will go back. A return ticket, not particularly weighty when it comes to consideration of an individual's intention to return. Generally, the entry clearance officer will consider that just to be a method of deceiving the entry clearance officer into believing that an individual would go back. But simply because somebody has a return flight doesn't necessarily mean that they will board that flight and return to their country of origin. So that's the response if mum is looking to enter the UK for a short period of time and then return to country of origin. If the intention is to bring mum to the United Kingdom on a more permanent basis, because mum is alone in the country of origin, has no other family around her, siblings are all now here, as our caller mentions, so that there is an intention for a more permanent arrangement. I have touched upon this in previous programs. It is a very onerous application to make, generally known as the adult dependent relative route. And one must satisfy the entry clearance officer with these applications that the applicant, so mum in our question, is unable to meet her own daily needs. She's unable to cook for herself. She's unable to provide herself the personal care that she requires. But more importantly, that there are no other routes to getting that care for her in country of origin, be that through official or unofficial sources. Funding generally is not a key consideration. If you are able to support mum in the United Kingdom, then those finances in another country will probably go a little bit further, and therefore care can be paid for in country of origin. With these types of cases, the entry clearance officer will want to see evidence of investigations. Are there any nursing agencies that can come and provide the care? Are there any care homes, for example, that can provide care? Can you just pay somebody, not necessarily a qualified nurse, but can you pay a maid, for example, to come and provide some of that care? Or are there extended family members or even other immediate family members that may be able to provide that care as well? So those are the aspects that the entry clearance officer will look at. And it's only if you are unable to satisfy, if you are able to satisfy, will you then be able to succeed in that application. Now, I believe we do have a caller on the line, so I will move on to taking that call. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, sister. Sister, I got a question.
Yes, brother.
Regarding the immigration matter. So actually, I have received the letter from the Home Office for the biometric.
Yes.
to come and do my finger there.
Yes.
So I just want to know, after how long they will be sending me the ID after when I put my biometric fingers?
And what type of application is it that you've made, brother?
Asylum.
You've claimed asylum. And when did you claim asylum?
I did like quite a while ago, 2 years ago. It has been accepted, and they have sent me the letter for the biometric.
So your application has already been accepted, but they've invited you to enroll your biometrics before they issue your ID card.
Yeah.
Okay. So generally, if you know that the application has already succeeded, and congratulations with that, then you will find that it can take up to about 3 to 4 weeks before your biometric card is issued. But it can be sooner, but sometimes they do still need to carry out some further security checks once you've enrolled biometrics. So it might be up to 4 weeks.
Okay, so when I do my fingerprints, after 3-4 weeks, they will sending me the biometric.
If you already have a positive decision, that's right, they will do.
Yeah, I have the appointment on 14th of December, so.
Well, good luck with that, and congratulations again. Thank you for your call, brother. Okay, so just for the purposes of our viewers, the brother called in to ask about his biometric enrollment. Now, biometric enrollment is the Home Office will invite applicants who make an application under UK immigration law to provide their fingerprints and photographs. Those fingerprints and photographs are then used to provide the identity card when a visa is essentially issued. And like most passports now, there is a chip within those ID cards which contains the individual's photograph and biometric data, so their fingerprints, should that need to be checked. Our brother informed us that his application for protection, so for asylum in the UK, has been successful. And the Home Office has invited him to enrol his biometrics as the final step before his ID card is issued. He was just wanting to know how long that can take. Often, once the Home Office has enrolled their biometrics, then the Home Office will carry out some security checks before sending out the ID, and that can take several weeks. We do have another caller on the line, so inshallah we'll proceed to take that call. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, brother, I can. Please go ahead.
Okay. My question is, we applied for actually, Reading Borough Council, they offered us a temporary accommodation, but we didn't move there with our 4 children because my missus, she faced on the first day when we were viewing the property, like someone say to her FF words. So I told the council, look, we're not going to move there because on the very first day my missus come across an abusive person, we believe living locally there somewhere.
Yeah.
So she, the officer who was working with us, she said, let me speak to my manager, and she comes back to me in around a week time. And she said, we can't offer you alternative apart from the one we have offered you already. So meanwhile, I find it private rented property.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But now the council send me, I have to pay kind of a rent and council tax. But my argument with them is, we never lived there, we never moved there, so why should I be paying for this one? So I don't really know what to do next, to be honest.
So they ask,
making me worry.
They're asking you to pay rent and council tax on the property that you didn't move into?
No, I didn't move. But what they did, they called me and my missus to the council office, and we signed the agreement. We will move. They give us the key. But when we viewed the property, and the very same day this incident happened in the same area, close to that property, my missus come across with the local person, like abusive language. She said, I'm not going to move. The children were upset because of, obviously, their mom was abused. Yeah. So the area was quite rough, we felt.
Yes.
So the council say, since you have signed the agreement, but we know you didn't move,
yeah,
but you still have to pay.
That's fine, brother. Okay, so inshallah, if you continue to listen, I am going to go for a short break, and inshallah, when we come back, I will then answer your question. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Free Legal Advice Show on British Muslim TV. I am your host, Riffat Hussain. Just before we went to our break, I was taking a question from our brother in relation to a housing matter. Our brother informed us that he had signed a tenancy with his local council for a property, and they had handed over keys for that property. However, when he and his family went to view the property, his wife experienced some abusive behaviour from one of the local residents, and they decided not to then take up that offer of property and instead found alternative accommodation through private rental. The brother has now received a notification that he is required to pay rent and also council tax on the property that he and his family did not move into. Now, brother, the answer to your question is what the agreement actually says. So you do need to look at the terms of your agreement that you signed with the council, because those terms will notify you what action you need to take if you are cancelling your agreement. Usually there is a period of time known as a cooling off period with any contract where you can change your mind and terminate that particular agreement. And so the question I would have asked if you had stayed on the line, and I'm so sorry we had to go to a break at that point, is whether or not you communicated your intention not to take this property and this property because of the abuse that your wife experienced and the fear that your children experienced due to that particular incident. The council is under an obligation to provide safe, secure accommodation. And so if this is not an isolated incident, you mentioned that it's a rough area. What makes it rough? Were there other instances where you and your family experienced abuse? And was this abuse, you hadn't mentioned, but was this abuse either racially motivated or religiously motivated? Then you and your family should not be placed in a location where that threat exists. Again, the distinction being that if it is an isolated incident, then it's not possible for the council to, unfortunately, completely eradicate individuals who do pose such kind of behaviours towards individuals. But if this is more of an ongoing campaign or more of a widespread issue in the area, then the council would need to be more sympathetic to your and your family's needs. With regards to your options, firstly, consult your agreement. That will inform you what your rights and responsibilities are. You will have rights, but you will also have responsibilities. Have you followed through on your responsibilities? Is it the council that's at fault, or have you not provided sufficient notice? The next thing is, if you have yourself followed through the steps that you were required to, then you may want to pursue this with the council. You may want to do so initially by speaking to the housing manager informally, raising your concerns to see if there is a solution. It may just be that these are automated and they're not aware they've been sent out. Whatever may be the case, have that dialogue with your council, with the relevant individuals involved. If you find that you are not able to reach some kind of compromise, and this issue is still persisting, then you may want to pursue a formal complaint with regards to this issue, setting out very clearly why you think the council has breached its duty of care to you and your family, and why you are not liable for this. Also do this quite swiftly, because if this is going to be an ongoing issue, if there is a step that you need to take to terminate your agreement and you still haven't, you may find that this rental demand is not the only rental demand, that there may be other demands for rent and council tax. So you want to ensure that you are communicating that termination to the council so that you're not liable for anything further whilst this is being resolved. Formal complaints process, you can get a written policy from your council that will inform you in terms of timescales and what will happen as part of that process. And if at the end of that you're not happy, then there is a local authority ombudsman who you can approach as well and forward your complaint to them. If you do require any assistance in drafting any of these documents, a complaint to understanding the terms and conditions of the agreement that you signed, then your local Citizens Advice Bureau will be a helpful place for you to go with your documents and for that assistance in drafting the complaint and communicating that to your local council. So I hope you do get that resolved directly with the council, and that it's not an ongoing issue for you. But if it does need to be, then there are avenues for you to pursue. But do make sure that you're not liable for anything more whilst you are querying the previous bills that you have had. So good luck with that, and thank you so much for taking the time to pose your question and to speak to me live on air. We have another question from a sister. The sister sent her question through our Facebook group, and she asks, unfortunately, she says that I've been accused of being anti-Semitic and discriminatory against a colleague. What rights do I have? The sister does mention that the complaint wasn't taken further and the case has been closed. So in respect of that, sister, I'm not sure what you mean by the complaint wasn't taken any further. You say accusations were made to whom? Clearly in an employment context, were they made to a manager, or was it somebody that simply made the comment that they found your comments or views discriminatory and anti-Semitic? There isn't a formal complaint, and there's no further action being taken against you either. So in terms of your rights, I'm not entirely sure what your question is with regards to what, but it would again depend on the context that you're asking that question. Has there been an investigation that's since been closed, although you do say that the complaint hasn't been taken further? If you could just clarify that for me and what you are asking, particularly in respect of your rights. Are you then asking whether you can make a complaint for the unfounded accusations against you? I will then pick that up and clarify that for you further. So with regards to some further questions that we have, moving on. So we have a question here which says, Assalamu alaikum. If someone has got a Pakistani nikah nama, is that a legal document in the UK to get the partner's property? Thank you. Wa alaikum assalam, and thank you for your question. When you say a Pakistani nikah nama, I assume that the marriage took place in Pakistan, and that is the reason why the nikah nama, or the marriage certificate, was issued in Pakistan. If that is the case, then a marriage that has taken place in Pakistan, a nikah that has taken place in Pakistan, would be a lawful marriage and would therefore be recognised as a marriage here in the UK. If the nikah took place in the UK, then that is not a lawful marriage, and the two individuals will not then be recognised under English law as being a married couple. That they would just be recognised as being cohabiting partners, and therefore will attract different rights with regards to property. Reading into the question, I assume that this is a marriage that has broken down, and there is a question around the division of assets and property. So with regards to the question, I assume, without any further detail, that the questioner is asking, is this a recognised lawful marriage? And therefore, is the spouse able to request a share of the assets and property in this marriage? The answer would be yes. If there is a divorce and a marriage breakdown, there are assets within that property, and there's within that marriage, and there's property within that marriage that needs dividing, then that is an issue that can be looked at by the courts when deciding who should have what share and how that should be divided. But by the sounds of it, this is a valid marriage which would be recognised by the UK authorities here. So I hope that does answer your question. We have another question here. Assalamu alaikum. Just wanted to confirm a tenancy agreement is enough for a spouse visa with landlord letter, or do I have to get an independent letter from a surveyor to support an application in a shared house? So the questioner is wanting to know, with regards to the immigration rules and a spouse application, what would suffice to demonstrate that there is adequate accommodation and the accommodation requirement of the immigration rules is met. And their question is, would the tenancy agreement that they have from their landlord suffice, or would they need a more in-depth report from an independent surveyor? There is no requirement within the immigration rules for you to have a report from an independent surveyor. You are simply required to produce evidence to demonstrate that there is adequate accommodation, which for a couple would be a bedroom or a room for their exclusive use. So by what you say, you are in a shared house, but you have your own room. And again, as long as that's exclusively for you and your spouse, then that would suffice, and the tenancy agreement and a letter to that effect from your landlord would suffice. If you want to add some further information and you do want an independent surveyor's report, then you can get that. They usually cost around £50. However, it's not a requirement of the immigration rules, and your application certainly will not fail without an independent surveyor's report. The tenancy agreement and the letter will suffice for those purposes. So I hope that does answer your question. With it being a shared property, what you might want to do is just add some further details to your covering letter to explain that you do only have this one room. If there are any communal areas, for example, the kitchen, if that's a shared place, a living space, you can also explain the dynamics yourself. Please continue to watch, and I will return after this short break with some further questions for you. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the Free Legal Advice Show on British Muslim TV. I am your host Riffat Hussain, and we're now into our final segment of this evening's show. Thank you so much for joining us and continuing to send through your questions. I believe we do have a caller on the line with another question, so I will proceed immediately to take this call. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम सलाम जी, मुझे उर्दू में बात करनी है रिफत आपसे।
जी जरूर बाजी।
जी मुझे एडवाइस चाहिए एक बारे में, बड़ा एक मसला है मेरे। आप हर मसले का हल बताते हैं, लीगल एडवाइस या कोई सिर्फ इमिग्रेशन का?
नहीं मेरी बहन, इंशाल्लाह हमारी कोशिश होती है कि जो भी आपका क्वेश्चन हो उसके आपको जवाब मिले।
जी मेरा सवाल ये कि जो है ना, कुछ मैं ना बोल रही, स्कॉटलैंड से बोल रही हूँ। जी फला मेरा नाम है। तो मेरे प्रॉब्लम ये कि बच्चे ना, पुलिस है ना मेरे बच्चों को अरेस्ट करती है, मेरे 3 लड़के हैं जिनको वो ऑलवेज अरेस्ट करते हैं। एक मेरा बेटा जो है 15 साल का था तब से अरेस्ट हो रहा है, उसको दिमाग का मसला है, वो ऑटिस्टिक है और उसने कुछ जुर्म नहीं किया होता, कुछ भी नहीं किया होता। उसको पुलिस तंग करती है, उसके कपड़े उठा के ले जाते हैं, उसके जूते उठा के ले जाते हैं और मैं कुछ नहीं कर पा रही अपने बेटे के लिए। मेरा बेटा बिल्कुल इनोसेंट है।
तो वो रीजन क्या देते हैं, वजह क्या बताते हैं अरेस्ट करने की?
वो वजह ये बताते हैं मेरी बहन के ना शक के वजह से किसी के एरिया में रॉबरी होती है तो उसको उठा के ले जाते हैं। मेरे एक बेटा 15 साल का है, एक 16 साल का, एक 17 साल का। तो अगर एरिया में किसी कोई स्टैबिंग करता है या कुछ लड़ाई होती है तो मेरे बेटों को अरेस्ट करके ले जाते हैं। फिर कहते हैं कि ये नो गिल्टी है। बेटों को हरेसमेंट करते हैं पुलिस बहुत ज़्यादा। मेरे बेटे बहुत परेशान है। मैं तो कहती हूँ कि हमें मार दो, हमें जीने का क्या हक है। जब मैं माँ हो के अपने बेटे जो मासूम है, ये कोई जुर्म नहीं किया, उनको पुलिस सिर्फ शक की बिना पर इतना जुल्म करती है। आधी आधी रात को उनको उठा के 8-10 पुलिस वाले आते हैं, वैने लेके आते हैं, उनको उठा के ले जाते हैं। फिर सुबह 24 घंटे कस्टडी के बाद छोड़ देते हैं। फिर कहते हैं कि सिर्फ शक था हमें।
अच्छा, और कितनी मरतबा ऐसे आपके बेटे अरेस्ट हुए?
मेरे बेटे 4 दफा अरेस्ट हुए हैं और शक की बिना पे उनको हमें तंग कर रहे हैं। हमें लगता है हमें जीने का कोई हक नहीं है, लगता है चाहते हैं कि हम लोग मर जाएं ऐसे ही बस।
मेरी बहन, जीने का हक ऑब्वियसली पुलिस नहीं देती है, वो तो अल्लाह की तरफ से होता है, लेकिन
हमारी जिंदगी हराम कर दी है ना, हमारा जीना हराम कर दिया। आप समझ रही है? हमारा
जी, मैं समझ रही
कर दिया। तो मैं क्या करूं सिस्टर, बताएं ना कि कोई एडवाइस लीगल दें कि मैंने कंप्लेंट भी बहुत सारी की है। मैं इतनी पढ़ी लिखी नहीं हूँ
जी,
तो जितना हो सकता है ना, मैं एज ए सिंगल मदर हर सिटीजन एडवाइजर ब्यूरो गई, उन्होंने मेरे लिए कंप्लेंट लिखी, लेकिन वो कहते पुलिस की पावर इतनी है हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते। अगर पुलिस शक के लिए उठाती है तो हमारे बेटों की अभी सिर्फ 15-16 साल अंडर एज है, उनकी जिंदगी बर्बाद कर दी है। 2 साल से ऐसे हो रहा है।
ओके मेरी बहन, आप प्रोग्राम देखते रहे, मैं इंशाल्लाह ना आपको आपके क्वेश्चन का जवाब देती हूँ।
जी जरूर। कि हम इनसे कैसे निपटा जाए, जैसे ये नाजायजी है ना।
जी जी,
जैसे हर इंसान को फ्रीडम और पीस ऑफ माइंड के साथ जीने का हक होता है, तो हमारे बच्चों को और हमें नहीं है। अगर कोई जुर्म किया होता तो मैं कहती कि कोई और
I think we've lost our sister. Okay, so our sister called, unfortunately, with a desperate plea for help. She has three young children. Well, not young children, 3 young men. Sons aged 17, 16, and 15. And our sister's complaint is that the police are repeatedly arresting her children, the youngest of whom is autistic. They repeatedly are harassing the family, arresting the boys on suspicion of any crime that is taking place in their locality. And she is now fed up of the situation and feels that their freedoms are being curtailed, and her children and herself as a single parent of these 3 boys is suffering. Our sister informed us that she has tried to pursue a complaint against the police through the assistance of the Citizens Advice Bureau, but unfortunately they have not got particularly far with that. And she asks for her options and what she can do. The sister has asked for her response to be in Urdu, so inshallah I will try and answer her questions so our sister has some guidance, and then I will translate that into English for our viewers who don't understand the Urdu language. So this is with regards to the police in Scotland, so the police force in Scotland. And बहन आपने पूछा था कि आप क्या कर सकते हैं, तो पहले आपने अनफॉर्चुनेटली आपने कहा है कि पहले आप कंप्लेंट परस्यू कर चुके हैं, लेकिन आपने दोबारा वो कंप्लेंट फॉर्मल कंप्लेंट परस्यू करना है। पुलिस के पास कंप्लेंट्स पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए जो वो आपको पॉलिसी दे सकते हैं। उसमें लिखा होगा कि आप क्या करेंगे, आपको क्या कर सकते हैं और वो क्या करेंगे, उनके रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ क्या हैं। उसमें वो टाइम फ्रेम देंगे आपको कि आपकी कंप्लेंट रिसीव होने के इतने अरसे बाद हम ये करेंगे, आपको इतने अरसे बाद जवाब मिलेगा। और उसमें ये भी लिखा होगा कि अगर आप उनके जवाब से खुश नहीं हैं, मुतमिन नहीं है उनके रिस्पॉन्स से, तो आपके नेक्स्ट ऑप्शंस क्या हो सकते हैं कि आप आगे कहाँ कंप्लेन कर सकते हैं। क्योंकि देखिए, जब आप एक इदारे की कंप्लेन करते हैं और उसी इदारे से करते हैं, तो फिर वो अपने आप को कोई भी इन्वेस्टिगेट पूरी तफसील में नहीं करेगा। सो मेन चीज़ है कि आप आगे के ऑप्शंस आपको पता होने चाहिए और उनको एक्सेस कैसे किया जाए। लेकिन जो आपका नेक्स्ट स्टेप हो वो आप जब पुलिस का अपना इंटरनल कंप्लेंट्स प्रोसेस जो है वो एग्जॉस्ट कर चुके हो, यानी कि उसके कम्प्लीटली थ्रू जा चुके हैं, उसका आगे कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है, तो फिर आप इंडिपेंडेंट रिव्यू के लिए जा सकते हैं। तो मेरी बहन, अगर आप के पास कोई पेन वगैरह हो, आप स्कॉटलैंड पुलिस की वेबसाइट पर भी ये दे सकते हैं क्योंकि उनकी कंप्लेंट्स पॉलिसी वहाँ पर होगी। लेकिन अगर आप उनके रिस्पांस से आपको लगता है कि वो सीरियसली नहीं ले रहे हैं या फिर वो आपको जवाब वो नहीं मिल रहा है जिसकी आपको तलाश है, तो आप डायरेक्टली जो है एक रिव्यू कमिश्नर है जिसका नाम है पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेशंस एंड रिव्यू कमिश्नर, उनको डायरेक्टली कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं। मैं आपको उनका एड्रेस, ईमेल एड्रेस और टेलीफ़ोन नंबर भी थोड़ी देर में दे दूंगी। आप इंशाल्लाह पेपर और पेन ले लें। मैं पहले आपका जवाब जो है वो इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेट कर लेती हूँ, आपको थोड़ा टाइम मिल जाएगा पेन और पेपर लेने के लिए, और फिर मैं आपको वो एड्रेस डिटेल्स और कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल्स दे दूँगी। So with regards to the response to our sister, I have advised her that she would initially need to pursue a complaint, a formal complaint with Scottish Police. She has already indicated that this has been done, but to no avail, but I am not clear on the full details as to how far that process was followed. I did then advise the sister that there will be an official written complaints policy that she needs to access through the police in Scotland to ensure that they are complying with those steps. If she's not satisfied with the outcome that she receives at the end of that process, then she is able to approach the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner, as they are in Scotland, and ask them to independently review her complaint and the campaign of harassment that she complains of. I've asked the sister to get herself a pen and paper so that I can provide her with those details. So मेरी बहन, आपके लिए ये जो डिपार्टमेंट है इनका नाम है Police Investigations and Review Commissioner. इनका एड्रेस है PO Box 20337 Hamilton ML3 3BQ। आप इनका स्विच बोर्ड, आप इनके स्विच बोर्ड नंबर पर राब्ता कर सकते हैं। यह नंबर है 01698542900। अगर आप ये पूरा लिख नहीं पाए तो इंशाल्लाह आप दोबारा कॉल कर लें, तो हमारी जो टीम है ये आपको कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल्स शो के बाद लिखवा देंगे। So I've provided our sister with the details for the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner. I've advised that if she's not been able to note down those details, then she can call back, and one of our team members will be able to repeat those for her. ये बात आपने याद रखनी है कि जो कंप्लेंट आप ये रिव्यू कमिश्नर जो हैं, जो इनको आपने कंप्लेंट डालनी है, जो इनके पास आपने रिव्यू भेजना है, वो पुलिस कंप्लेंट के कंक्लूड होने के बाद आपने 3 माह के अंदर भेजना है। यानी कि ये आपका टाइम लिमिट होगा कि 3 माह के अंदर जब पुलिस आपको जवाब दे देगी, अगर आप उससे हैप्पी नहीं हैं, अगर आप उससे मुतमिन नहीं हैं, तो 3 माह का टाइम लिमिट है आपके लिए कि आप फिर इस रिव्यू कमिश्नर को अपनी कंप्लेंट भेजें। अगर आप इस टाइम से बाहर भेजते हैं तो फिर वो आपकी कंप्लेंट जो है इन्वेस्टिगेट नहीं कर पाएंगे। So again, there is a time limit. I've advised our sister there is a time limit of 3 months to lodge her complaint with the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner after the police have concluded or she has exhausted the police's own complaints policy. And I hope that provides our sister with some guidance. Alternatively, मेरी बहन, अगर आपको ये जवाब ना ठीक लगे तो आप किसी लोकल लॉयर से बात करें कि ऐसा कोई लोकल लॉयर्स हैं या कोई इदारा हो जो आपके लिए ये टॉपिक रेज कर सके, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली आपको ऐसी हरासमेंट फेस नहीं करनी चाहिए. The sister has been advised to approach a local lawyer who might be able to assist with complaints against the police also. And I do sincerely hope the sister does get that situation resolved, because we all heard the torment in her voice when asking her question, and the desperation to try and get this resolved for these young men. So thank you so much for that question, and we do pray that our sister does get that resolved relatively quickly. We are now approaching the end of this show today. Thank you so much for joining me again for this session. Inshallah, I will be back with you next week on Monday at 7 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.